Good morning and happy Halloween. My name is Swamp Rose and welcome back to my channel. So today I am continuing my podcast where I cover the case against Brian Kohlberger, otherwise known as the Idaho 4 case. And today I'm going to be doing a reaction video, and I'm going to be reacting to Robert from True Crime Podcast. Now, for those of you who don't know, Robert is actually someone I collaborate with quite frequently, although we haven't done any collaborations lately. But his video was recommended in my feed this morning, and I really thought, let's turn off my camera for a second. I really thought that he brought up some good points. He also mentions 2 or 3 things I hadn't heard before. So what I thought I'd do is I'd bring up the video, I'd react to it, and I also have some documents to emphasize what he's saying. And then maybe some of the further questions that we have, I can take it to the audience because, you can't beat the internet. And you guys can give me your take on what I'm listening to. So without any more delay, let's go ahead and bring up Robert's video. And this video is titled King Road Home Demolition Shocker. Was it torn down for greed? I should turn to the chat though before I started. Christy, thank you for being here. Christy Nevada, my managing mod. Hey, Jackie, so nice to see you. We got a lot of mods out here. Angel. In Morning Label, Nina, who's going to be doing a live. She's going to be my guest on a live stream tonight. We're doing a late night live. We're going to be doing it 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. I'll probably list it this afternoon. So anyway, I just wanted to turn to the chat for a moment. Anyway, let's get started with this video. And I'll put Robert's banner up while we're playing this, so you can go visit his channel and leave him a comment about what you think. I love Robert's intros. Going for the new one. This is Halloween. I'm not even Halloween. Hi, Aquarius. All right, here we go.
Hey, what's up, guys? What I want to talk about this morning, or should say tonight, is why the U of I is so desperate to distance itself from the murders of Xana, Maddie, Kaylee, and Ethan. I feel like they don't care.
Right there. So one of the reasons why I immediately thought I was going to react to this video is because he brought that subject up, and it happened to, my hair is so fucked up. He happened to bring it up in a live stream. Not him, I'm sorry, Kane happened to bring it up in my last live stream. And we got to talking about it because universally, no matter who it is, when they hear about this case, when they hear about the details of this case, nobody has the reaction like, oh yeah, they should have torn down that house, or what difference does it make? There's no one, even Nancy Grace doesn't think they should have torn down the house, didn't think they should tear down the house. So Robert's first point right off the bat kind of gets me going, and I want to show you guys something. And I'm not going to chop up his whole video like this, but I knew right off the bat I wanted to show this to you guys because I think when we get into the topic of the house getting torn down, I want to point, oops, sharing the wrong thing. I want to point something out to you guys. And I've never actually read this article in a live stream, but I have referenced it in different videos. And this is an article by the New York Post. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but let me just scroll up so you can see the title of it. It says, University of Idaho murder victims' families prepare to sue the city of Moscow. The families of murdered University of Idaho students Kaylee Gonzalez and Madison Mogan have filed paperwork to reserve their right to sue the city of Moscow, Idaho. 2 notices filed with the city on May 3rd and May 11th respectively indicate that the Gonzalez and Mogan family could bring lawsuits against Moscow and seek mandatory damages. The documents, first obtained by ABC News, did not say what wrongdoing the plaintiffs may have alleged. The notices also do not specify the amount of potential damages, leaving it as undetermined at this time. And if you scroll down here, Shannon Gray, the attorney representing Gonzalez and Mogan family, told ABC News that while his clients have yet to file any lawsuit, the notices protect their legal right to do so within 2 years, which, if you guys are doing the math, I think like that was 2023. So yeah, 2 years is going to be coming up this February. It's a safeguard to protect the interests of the families, the victims, and really the whole community around. Because if something goes wrong or was done improperly, there is someone to be held accountable for that, the lawyer explains. Gray revealed that he had also filed notices reserving his client's right to sue the University of Idaho, Washington State University, and Idaho State University. The news comes the day after Koberger was arraigned on 4 counts of first-degree murder and charged with felony burglary. When asked how he pleaded to the crimes during the long-awaited hearing, Koberger stood silent in a courtroom packed with loved ones. So anyway, I'm going to go back to Robert's video, but I wanted to pause and read that because again and again and again, if we can't figure out any motive for tearing down the house, I mean, it's not just the biggest piece of evidence in one potential case. Let's get Robert back up here.
About them. I mean, that's what it feels like. Because you had them tear down the crime scene a year after the murders, and then you had them keep mentioning it as an off-campus home, their off-campus home, like completely distancing themselves from the killings. You had the university getting all bent out of shape because there was reward posters put up around campus, and they wanted the reward posters taken down because it would interfere with rush week, and they didn't want to lose any precious sorority or fraternity new pledges because there was reward posters asking information of who took the lives of Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan.
This point that Robert brings up is something that I think is extremely viable, and I want a few more pieces of clarification on. I don't know if we're going to get clarification before the trial, but why is it that posters weren't allowed up? And I know there was one documented incident where somebody was pulling down posters. I don't know if that had anything to do with the university, but it did kind of sound like it was presented that they didn't want to put posters up. The university did not want people to put posters up. I have heard people push back on that and say there were posters up in some places at some times, but I haven't been able to actually verify that. But I think Robert's making a really good point here. It's a viable question, and especially when we have that Fox News interview with the Gonzalez's, and they said, you know, that they were offered a reward, but the police said not to take it. They didn't want to offer the reward. And they said the tip line was overburdened. And I actually went back and I I had been sent a screenshot by one of my subs, Rochelle. And I mean, I was always thinking there was like 5,000 tips. There was like well over 10,000 tips by the 19th of December. So yes, I can understand how offering a reward would cause more tips or false leads. But when it's a manhunt and you don't know who the person is, I've never seen a circumstance where people didn't want a reward posted. So anyway, I'm going to let Robert keep going. I promise I won't keep pausing the video like this, but he's making some good points.
I almost start to feel that the university just views their students as dollar signs. Because they were supposed to build a healing garden on the side of 1122, but Maisie and Hunter Chapin didn't want that, so they got them to build it there on the campus. I saw that healing garden. It's so tiny and so dinky. And apparently, whatever money was left after the healing gardens, the university kept. And it wasn't just, see, originally the healing garden was supposed to be for Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. Well, after it was done, it wasn't just for them. It was for the vandals that they have lost. You know, Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan do have like a little plaque. Like their names on a little strip of a plaque with a pillow down below the bottom. But it's not named after them. It's not the Idaho 4 Healing Gardens. It's the vandals that we have lost.
All right, so I do have two thoughts on that I wanted to bring up. Now, first and foremost, I want to know from the viewers who follow this case, who have followed these victims now for, we're going on 2 years. What did you think of the healing garden? Did you think that it came out well? Do you think that it's what the community was expecting? Do you feel that they missed something? Do you feel the same way Robert does? And then as far as like how they made it instead of just the Idaho 4 healing garden and they made it into a Vandals healing garden. I mean, yes, as somebody whose heart is with the victims, I thought it was going to be solely devoted to that horrific tragedy. However, I do think if I were the family of another person a vandal who had passed on, and I see this memorial being made for these 4 and not for my family member, I would feel that they were probably trying to be sensitive to that other family too. But I don't know, and I'd like to hear your thoughts below. I'm just giving my opinion. Let's keep listening to Robert. And Robert, by the way, I miss you. I hope you're back soon on my show.
I have never seen a college so disconnected from something this horrifically tragic. They just want to disconnect themselves from the entire thing. Look at Pi Beta Phi. Like a couple of days after the murders, they came out with this very heartwarming post about Maddie and Xana. And then around Christmas time, please come put an angel on the tree for those that we have lost. Those that we have lost. It's like not fair at all. And I mean, if you look at the PCA is full of freaking holes.
Okay, this is where we're getting. This is where the video is going to get really interesting, guys. So before we move on, and we start talking about the PCA, because this is where Robert and I are vibing on the same opinion. And like, I know Robert's personality, and I can hear, like, this is an intense video for him. And the things that he's saying, he's speaking from the heart, whether you agree with him or not, which reminds me, let's put up the speculation banner. Robert's speaking from the heart. This is his opinion. I mean, for me, as far as like hanging the angels on the tree and stuff like that, we do what we can to honor the dead, you know, and if it's a little thing like that, you know, who knows, that might have been, somebody might have thought that was a nice gesture. But I do want to read some of these comments. So warning label Nina, again, who will be on my show tonight. Eagle Investments bought most homes on King Road area. Eagle sold to Cottonwood Development. Steve Weeks on both companies. You know what was interesting is Robert goes into some, I'm just thinking about what you're saying. Robert goes into some details. I don't want to spoil the rest of the video, but he starts, we're going to pause. I got a star on your comment. I will address this. Robert talks about Kaylee and how much she loved that house in this video. And that's some of the information I hadn't heard before, why I thought this would be appropriate reaction video, because it's kind of an update, some things I just hadn't heard. So we're going to pause on that, but down to Christie's. She said they should have made a special spot for the 4 off to the side or something. I get including other families, but this money was for Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Xana, and you're 100% right. So when you're asking, Christy probably addresses the elephant in the room, which is if you're charity fundraising for something, it's, I don't want to use the term, but I mean, it feels like bait and switch. You tell someone to donate for one thing, and then you switch it to another thing. So I think you summed it up really well, Christy. Thank you. And I never heard that about Kaylee before. Yeah, where do you hear this? Maybe Robert will show up and talk about his source, or maybe someone in the chat will know. Let's go. I'm sorry to talk so much. I really want you to hear what Robert has to say.
The prosecution is going to have a very good shot at trying this case because there was a lot of mistakes made in the PCA. Like, why were they trying to get Brian's cell records before they had probable cause?
That's the first one. So the question that Robert just asked, just to repeat, was how did they get Brian's cell phone records without probable cause? So if I remember correctly, and I might even have the picture right here, the probable cause was obtained. I think this is it. Yes. So the probable cause was obtained on the 8458 number. And I think all of the phone numbers on there, but this, or it must have been this one. So it says on December 23rd, pursuant to the search warrant, I received historical records for the 8458 number from AT&T. So if they didn't know about Koberger until the 29th, but they had his name because they got the search warrant for the 8458 number. So wouldn't they have known about Brian on the 23rd when they obtained those warrants? I mean, it was the number they were going after, except for, let's just point out the possible typo down there where it says 8548. But you know what? I have another phone number for Brian that was just emailed to me the other day. I mean, I don't know how to like reverse look up and everything, but allegedly it's Brian's second phone number. We have it. I don't know. Let's listen to what he says. I'm bringing up the PCA because that's what we're going to get into. Oops. Because that's what Robert's about to get into. And that's what I'm going to break down. And you're going to find this interesting, along with some of the info on Kaylee I hadn't heard before.
And why did Dylan contradict herself like numerous times in the PCA? You know, she opened her door 3 times at night. The first time she opened her door, you know, she heard what she thought was the sound of Kaylee playing with her dog, and Kaylee saying something to the effect of "There's someone here." And when you had law enforcement immediately say,
Good to see you, Matt.
by a forensic download of Xana's phone, we believe that was Xana saying.
I agree with Robert. Every time I speculate on this, it just gets worse and worse. So I would just let's just Robert's doing an editorial, so he's not bringing up the documents, but I'm pointing out what he's talking about because he's legit coming up with the same questions that I have. And good morning, 12ish. All right, so here we got the probable cause affidavit. And let's go to sorry for the dead air, you guys. And by the way, while I will just, well, I'm at the spot, but I was going to say, let me make some small talk. Let me know what your plans are for Halloween today, because I'm sure some of you are doing something fun. I was this close to going to Salem, Mass, because the weather is so beautiful. It's like 80 degrees on Cape Cod today. But anyway, hey, AR, I hope you're doing good. All right, so I got distracted by AR. I want to talk about him for a minute, but I should stay on point. So what Robert's referencing, a combination of DM's statements to law enforcement, reviews of forensic downloads from BF and DM's phone, and a video of a suspect video described by lead investigators. But if you come down here, up here, this is what Robert's talking about. A short time later, DM said she heard what she thought was Gonzalez say something to the effect of, "There's someone here." A review of records obtained by the forensic downloads of Kernodle's phone showed that this could have also been Kernodle, as her cellular phone indicated that she was likely awake using the TikTok app at 4 a.m. And why is that so contradictory? Because, well, for me, it's because just a few moments later, we are listening to Dylan witness that she thought she heard a dog playing upstairs. And she knew the general muffled noise of that. And so you would think that she could compare that to a voice. But the police distinctly think that she heard Santa, possibly, or they wouldn't have listed that. Let's keep listening to Robert, but I just wanted to put that into context so you guys know what he's talking about. Sorry it took me so long to pull that up. And you're going to be interested in what he has to say. This is fascinating.
Yeah, there's someone here. Okay, so why contradict your quote unquote star witness? Why contradict your star witness? And then you had Dylan state, I opened my door for the second time and heard what sounded like the Xana crying. And then a paragraph and a half later, I opened up my door a third time after what I thought I heard was Xana crying. So which one is it? Did you open your door for the second time in here, or did you open your door for the third time after what you thought you heard it? And where I believe that they messed up in the PCA was the whole part about Dylan seeing a man with bushy eyebrows. That's one of the parts that they messed up at. because this was before they ever had Brian on their radar, because they looked at his driver's license, and his driver's license showed he had bushy eyebrows.
Okay, we're gonna stop there. All right, so I've got this like little hair sticking out. Robert brings up this. Stop my camera. Hold on a second. I can't handle that. Okay. So Robert brings up a point that got me thinking, and I've never thought of this before. Okay, so the first thing he said was Dylan is their star witness. Why would they contradict her? Okay. Now, I don't know if Dylan is their star witness or not, but she's pretty high on the list of people we think that would be their star witness. And then he says, why would you give such a broad generalization of the description of the perpetrator that basically fits the majority of the people on that campus? So the thought that crossed my mind when I heard that was, sorry, I have to stop my camera. It's glitching out. The thought that crossed my mind was, well, do you remember that interview with Fox News where Steve Gonzalez was like, he said, they're looking for a male. And he apologized to MPD and he said, I'm sorry, but I think at this point, we can all just assume it was a male who did this. Well, how would he know that? Either the police told him what Dylan said in her interview, or Dylan told him, or Dylan told someone who told him. But how would he know the description of the perpetrator before the PCA came out or before the arrest? I don't know. I guess the case wasn't gagged back then too, but it's just interesting. Yeah. Anyway, I'll keep going. I don't know if I actually made a good point there.
Now, I'm not saying Brian did it. I believe Brian's innocent. Yeah, DM described a figure 5'10" or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. So if Brian is not on their radar, and that bushy eyebrows is just a generic description of anybody that would be on the University of Idaho campus. So why put that in the PCA before you even had Brian or anybody on the radar for this case? That's one of the places I think that they messed up at. And I also like to know exactly before they had him on their radar, why were they tracking his car across the country? I'd like to know that. And you had a you had a molecule of DNA on the button snap of the knife sheath. You see, Brian is not in CODIS because he's not a convicted felon. And I don't think Brian did this anyway. I think they're going to have a really hard time prosecuting this case because if you look at the PCA, it's full of holes, vagueness, and half-truths.
Because that's a powerful statement Robert just made, so I wanted to pause on that. The PCA is full of holes, vagueness, and half-truths. I thought this was an interesting comment I wanted to bring up. Look, if you guys don't know, AR is someone I collaborate with frequently for a long time now. I trust him. I consider him part of my team, along with Robert. And he says, I have been told by someone pretty close to things that they have used a picture of Brian in a photo lineup, and Dylan picked him out. And you can take that for what it's worth if you want to just believe AR or not, but you know, well, or AR's just repeating what his source said, but I do trust AR's. Let's keep going.
But of course, you know, we've all been told that the PCA don't count anymore. Okay, but the PCA don't count. You know, all the PCA was anymore was just a bunch of pieces of paper you could probably wipe your butt with. I mean, it's true. But getting back to the house, exactly why.
This is interesting. Now, this is where we're getting into the statement I made about Kaylee earlier. And Robert, I'd love to know your thoughts and additionally about where you heard that. I did have this other comment I wanted to read by AR though. Because of the photo lineup, the PCA description matters. We can go back and forth for the next 2 years talking about the PCA, and it means nothing to the actual evidence today. They just needed probable cause for that search warrant, and AR is right. I mean, and the only time I would say we don't know if this has been addressed by Supreme Court or not. So if there is going to be a Franks hearing, that's the only time it would matter. But we also know the statement from MPD. If they throw this charge out, they're going to arrest him the second he walks out the door. That was the quote that they said in court. And then Translation says, does AR believe Brian will please him? I don't think so. I don't think that's what he meant. And then AR says, absolutely not. Brian will never plea. He is aggressively pursuing innocence. And on that same note, I mean, we can't deny it. And I say it over and again, because trying to like get a picture in people's heads, no matter what you think, Ann Taylor is going for an alternative suspect theory. She believes in the innocence of her client, and that's what she proclaimed in court. She will be saying somebody else committed these atrocities. It doesn't sound like a plea is even on the map. Thank you. And it's so nice seeing what your Halloween plans are. Colleen, I'm just going to weigh in on one of them, and the audience can tell me what they think. We have someone in the chat who has a 14-year-old son who wants to go trick-or-treating tonight. And she's scared because he's so tall and she doesn't want like to look like a grown-up's going. But I think it's okay. I mean, as long as he's still comfortable having fun with his friends and doing that, I don't know, let him be a kid for one more year. But I don't know. You guys tell me what you think in the chat. I think that most streets that aren't like open and well lit don't have as much trick-or-treating anymore. I mean, everyone does trunk or treat now, you know, if it's not like a suburban neighborhood or whatever. Anyway, back to the video. Sorry.
Would you want to tear down the house before anybody woke up? Why would you do that? Why would you tear the house down before anybody woke up? What is the university trying to hide? What are they trying to hide?
And I just go back to this, like, I feel that these are protective measures. I mean, if you think you could potentially have a lawsuit coming and you have the ownership of the house and there's no legal reason why you should keep that house up, I mean, anything could have been going on. There could, who knows? I mean, if the city is involved too, if this, and what could include the house and the city? I mean, maybe the use of a stingray? I don't know. And then just like back to the, you know, there's a discussion going on in the live chat about evidence and like, well, all this evidence, should Brian plead or should he not plead? I was just on Lawyer You Know the last time he reviewed this case. So like, I'm sorry, my camera's all glitchy and it keeps pausing on these weird spots. Last time I was watching Lawyer You Know, he was reviewing all the documents and he said, in his professional opinion, and he knows this, you have no idea what the evidence is. Nobody does. And he's not, even him being, and he is a defense attorney, but even he's not forming an opinion on Brian Koberger until he sees this evidence. He thinks very well there could be, we just don't know. It's not like we can form an opinion because we just don't know. Anything we say is a guess. And that's coming from even like one of the most popular lawyers on YouTube.
Is it greed? Is it for money? Yeah, I do believe so. Because they're going to be building low-income student housings on that site. But here's the thing with that, though. Is it going to be low-income off-campus sorority housing or low-income off-campus fraternity housing? Because we all know, even Olivia Gonzalez stated that the house was an iconic house. And I really like to know what she meant by that.
Okay.
It was an iconic house.
This entire segment. Now, this is where I want you guys, I need like that group think. I need all of, oh, am I muted? Shit. This is where we need to put our heads together because I don't know where he's hearing this, but it goes back to what Nina was saying earlier when we were talking. Eagle Investments bought most of the homes on King Road area. Eagle sold to Cottonwood Development. Steve, and I think you were supposed to say, works on both companies. And again, this is all speculation. I don't know. But is this what Robert's talking about? Because you'll hear in this segment, and I'm going to just back it up right to the beginning of what he said. He says, Kaylee believed this was an iconic house. She wanted to live in the iconic house. And Robert is texting me, so I think I'm getting this wrong. But let's play it.
Is it for money? Yeah, I do believe so. Because they're going to be building low-income student housings on that site. But here's the thing with that, though. Is it going to be low-income off-campus sorority housing or low-income off-campus fraternity housing? Because we all know, even Olivia Gonzalez stated that the house was an iconic house. And I really like to know what she meant by that. It was an iconic house. And according to her, Kaylee used to dream about living in that house.
Kaylee used to
And her
dream
and Maddie
about living in that house.
checked it off their bucket list because they moved into the iconic home. Well, why is it iconic? Is it iconic because it was a party house? Is it iconic because Sigma Chi basically ran that house?
Why is it an iconic house? These are great questions. If Kaylee did say this, why did she say it was an iconic house? This was a co-ed house the year before. So the year before the girls had signed the lease, it was a co-ed house. And I mean, don't necessarily know if it was Sigma Chi or not, but I think it was Nina even showed there was another Gonzalez family member who possibly lived in that house. I'm not sure. But anyway, I wonder what she meant by that. Or is it like what Nina is saying? This might have been kind of, I don't want to say a family home, but maybe, and I mean, I don't even know if this is even relevant to the case. I'm literally just reacting to Robert and everyone in the chat. I'll keep going.
And we all know that they ran the house because when the roommates were gone, they used to throw parties up in that house. So, yeah. Sigma Chi was the kings of that house. And it's truly sad. You had, what was it? Six co-eds, 6 young college female students living in that house. You had Sigma Chi all up in that house when the roommates weren't home and when they were home as well. Sigma Chi used to throw parties there when the roommates weren't home. Now, here's the thing. Did they ask permission before they threw the parties at the house? Or was that just a perk of living in the house? We're going to throw parties here. You guys don't say a word. Everything will be fine. If you don't want to be involved in the party, make sure you're not home. And I believe that's how it went down.
I don't know. I mean, I think that if you sign a lease and you put your own money up and it's legally in your name, even if it's on Greek Row, they should in no way be pressuring people to have parties. I don't know if they did or didn't do that, but it is interesting because it boils down to this like loyalty in these organizations. I talked to somebody when I first started covering the Sigma Chi angle, like well over a year ago. I talked to a family member who not only attended a fraternity all 4 years of college, but they do things with their fraternity brothers still now, like 30 years later. They're very close. And I do think that there's this incredible loyalty. One time I said to him, I go, well, I'm just going to repeat that, you didn't go back to your fraternity house to party after you graduated, because we were talking about like Hunter, I think one time. My dog is trying to distract me. And he got all nervous and he's like, you didn't say my name. You didn't say that I said that, right? I didn't tell you anything. And I was like, no. So there is like this crazy loyalty. And yeah, I do see a position of like power where if you wanted to host parties somewhere, you probably could influence your fellow Greek Row underclassmen to do so. But I'll shut up and let Robert talk. Stop it, Rocco.
Because a lot of the parties took place when the girls weren't home. And that's when you had a lot of the noise complaints. Because, and I believe it was one time in one of the noise complaints, Dylan was actually home at one of the parties, I believe. No, that was the night that Xana got pulled outside to talk to Blaker and Payne. And you could see Dylan and her little boyfriend, Quinn Kelly.
I thought this was a good comment, so I just wanted to read it while we're on the subject. And again, if you have thoughts on this, I'll read your comment too. We're starting a conversation. That's all this show is about, is if you don't talk about things, that's when people start making theories. And so I think it's great when you guys leave your difference of opinions. We can all have a different opinion. AR says nobody was pressuring anybody to have parties at the home. People in the home choose to do so. And people also partied at numerous homes around it. It was just a fun party area. And that could go back to why she could have allegedly said it's an iconic house and she was excited to live there. I should probably sit up straight.
Kelly up there on the patio, blasting their music, and they quickly turned off the music and bolted inside. But yeah, I'm tired of all the PCA talk. The PCA is nothing but garbage. And I was doing some little investigating today on Facebook. The Laramies now have a GoFundMe. and it is being promoted by the Gonzalez's.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, the Gonzalez have it all up on their family page, and I'll actually read to you exactly what the Gonzalez's stated about the Laramie's GoFundMe.
I want to. She's pulling up the Facebook page. So, guys, I'm gonna make.
Here we go.
Hold on, I'm gonna pause this for a second. Okay, so he's about to talk about the Laramie family and their GoFundMe page, and I sometimes don't like to voice my opinion when I know I'm gonna get pushed back, but I am gonna say my opinions on that. And again, I hope we can all share different opinions and talk about it in the spirit of figuring out what the truth is and the best decision. But let's hear what he has to say, and then I'm going to give my reaction about the GoFundMe.
The Gonzalez family stands with the Laramie family 100%. We have a bond that will last a lifetime. This is Maddie's mom and dad that raised her and took care of her. If you cannot donate, please help us share. I thank you all so much for all your help and support. Our families have been put in a terrible spot with this change of venue. Please, no fighting and arguing. We need everyone to come together for justice. Christy. They're still throwing a fit that the change of venue happened.
Okay, I see what his point is.
They called it the terrible day, the change of venue. The last thing I heard is Stephen Christie is either upper middle class or rich. So why do they need a GoFundMe? Can someone tell me that down in the comments? Why do they need a GoFundMe? Isn't this like the third GoFundMe? The second one was to pay off Kaylee's Range Rover. And another thing, exactly why was there an 8-hour gap? Why? You don't call the cops for 8 hours.
Just there's so much in this video, and that's why I had messaged Robert when I heard it. I'm like, I just have to react to this video because you're talking about everything. The biggest piece of current events that we have in this case is the new GoFundMe that was put up by the Laramie family. I agree with Robert's point that the change of venue, and he said Robert's quote was, they're throwing a fit, as they're still throwing a fit over change of venue. And I definitely read in there they were emphasizing the hardship they were getting from this change of venue. So you're absolutely right. They wanted us to pick up on that in what they wrote. But I thought this was an interesting comment up here from, let's see, it was from Lady Speedwell. And she felt that that statement might have been a dig at Ben Logan, in her opinion. You know, I don't know either way, but I will say that I've watched the behavior of Ben Logan and the Laramie family, and I have been impressed with their grace. And I'll tell you two examples of that. The first one is the contract that they did with the James Patterson book and the Netflix docuseries. In that instance, where they have one of the most famous authors in the entire world about to put out probably one of the most best-selling books, they are poisoning themselves too late. They're waiting until after the trial. They respected the legal process where you're not going to try to taint the jury pool ahead of time. I mean, right there, that impressed me so much that they have the ability to maybe fund this, to take any financial hardship they have away, and they're, you know, holding off. I'm not saying they didn't get advancements or anything. So I'm just pointing that out. I really appreciated the way that they put that deal together. And then the second part of this is, well, there's actually three things that I think show their grace. The other thing is the way that they've handled the media. They've just been very stoic, and they've been very careful with their words. And when they do make media appearances, it's typically like last time I saw Ben Logan making a media appearance. My camera's glitching out. Let me just stop it. Last time I saw Ben Logan making a media appearance, he was 100% honoring his daughter. He was coming out talking about his daughter and how she grew up, what she was like as a child. It was such a wonderful approach to the media where he was using it to honor the victim. So I really liked the way they handled their public relations. I thought it was very gracious throughout this case. And then the other thing, which I think makes the GoFundMe extremely appropriate, is when you have one of these nonprofit GoFundMes where you're taxed, as long as you're not taxing the money, as long as it's spent for the charitable cause that you noted, they're stating they're going to give the extra money to a scholarship fund. And so just those three instances, I thought that it demonstrated the grace of the Laramie family. I feel that I want to support them, but the mixed feelings and the passions around here, I've just decided not to take a side on this. But I would be not true to myself if I didn't say how I actually felt about this GoFundMe. I just really don't care about these that much, but I also am not saying that I'm not dismissing you guys' feelings either. And I want to know what you think. So I'll shut up and let Robert talk, because we're getting to the 8-hour time delay now, and this is where things get even more interesting.
After what you thought you saw, a man walking through the King Road home at 4 something in the morning, you don't call the cops? You could have saved a life. You really could have. Now, and Dylan, more than likely, after all this is said and done, will have mental scars from all this. And she's going through tremendous survivor's guilt. Well, maybe you should have did the right thing and dialed 911, because quite possibly you're going through all this survivor's guilt is because you feel bad that you didn't do anything to help save their lives.
I just don't know enough about it to be, I don't know. I will listen to what Dylan says, and I will believe her because she's a victim in this case, and I will see the police's evidence against her testimony. But you cannot pretend that one of the reasons why this case isn't so mysterious is the oddities of the 8-hour time delay. And I was just having a conversation with somebody the other day, and we were it was Kane. It was Kane B. He was on my live stream the other day, and we hung out for a minute in the live stream after it ended. And I was telling him, I'm like, I have this one soundbite, and it's a Fox News reporter, and she's outside the King Road home, yellow tape everywhere, still investigating the crime scene. And she's one of their popular news reporters. I've seen her covering politics recently. So she's not like some B-rated field agent. She's the real deal. And I have the clip. I just don't want to interrupt the live stream. Maybe I'll play it at the end. But she said she went around and talked to the neighbors, and she has testimony from one of the neighbors saying the door was left open at 8:30 in the morning that morning. And so then we're all watching, because this major news network reports on this. We're watching the press conference, and Chief Fry says, somebody asked them about the door, and he goes, "This is the first time I've heard of that." How in a murder investigation does he not know about the door being left open? I mean, just that one fact alone changes time of death, I would think, right? It factors in at least. So even though I might not agree with everything Robert makes as a point, I will say there's no way to deny that 8-hour time delay is one of the things that propelled this case into infamy. So let's keep going.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not victim blaming at all. I'm not. But those two girls know something. Either know something, or they saw something that they weren't supposed to see. I believe they knew the killers. Because if it was truly one deranged person, as what we keep hearing, Dylan and Bethany wouldn't be alive right now. Because if you're going into a house with 6 people and you're one person, and you don't know whether these people are awake or asleep, or someone's up walking around, you don't know exactly what type of environment you're walking into. And I'm tired of all the stalking nonsense. Brian didn't stalk him. There was no evidence of.
Okay, because I want to, before he gets on to the next subject, I just want to bring up my points about the last thing. So, excuse me. So he's saying if this is one deranged perpetrator, then the girls wouldn't be alive right now. The surviving roommates wouldn't be alive. He would have got them too. Couple of points on his point. Number one, I keep going back to this post-arrest interview with Ted Bundy only as a comparison to the breaking and entering. And he went into a sorority house and ended up unaliving people. And there was a survivor to this crime. And there were many, many people who got spared. And at the end of the day, when they did the post-arrest interview, when they were talking to Bundy years later, they asked him, why did you spare these girls and attack these ones? And Bundy said, it's very simple. I went into the doors that were unlocked. And I'm just saying, I'm just adding that. And then the other thing I wanted to add is if, in the spirit of what Robert is saying, which is going to, might I remind you, be in the spirit of what Ann Taylor and the rest of the defense team is going to be telling us soon, that this is an alternative suspect or two or whatever. What are some of the points that I'd like to bring up? Well, the speculation is very high about a naked man and a man clad in black. 2 different witnesses saw 2 different men, allegedly. The other piece of evidence I would bring up if we were looking at alternative suspect or multiple suspect theory would be the van shoe print in the house and the boot print on the high side of the house. And now I'm going to play Robert again.
Stalking. We heard it from Bill Thompson himself and the judge. There was no evidence of Brian stalking the victims. And don't give me that malarkey that he was planning the murders before he even heard of them while he was still in his room in Pennsylvania. And the whole crackpot comment, he had been studying forensics for years. No, for centuries. You realize how stupid you made yourself sound by saying he's been studying forensics for centuries?
This is the only time I'm going to push back on my little Robert, and please don't get offended. My little Robert, my good friend Robert, and please don't get offended. I am not holding Steve responsible for that statement about the centuries and the freaking no. In that interview, I watched somebody who approached him like they were going to give him a professional interview, and then they bombarded him with this emotional bomb of their own baggage and tried to make him cry for an entire hour straight, and then brought in experts to break down the crime. It was not okay. And if he misspoke or if he said something wrong, I don't think it was his fault. I think he was pushed to the edge in that interview. I never push back on when I hear Steve G saying these contradictory things. I'm like, yeah, that is messed up. But in that one instance with Nancy Grace, I feel that she pushed him to the edge. And I'm so sorry if you guys don't agree with me, but I'm just trying to be like open and honest about this. I'm just trying to call it like I see it. And I was just appalled at Nancy Grace in that interview. I don't even care anymore. I'm just going to say it. It was the most unprofessional thing I've ever seen, because she brought her own emotional baggage into the interview. It was terrible.
I'm sorry, Mr. Gonzalez. You need to take that crack pipe and lay it down. Or whatever you're smoking, you need to take it and lay it down. Because Brian's not immortal. He's not a vampire. So I don't know where you get off saying that he had been studying criminal justice and forensics for centuries. I don't know where you got that from. Is your brain starting to glitch from the overload of the narrative that you're trying to pump out? It makes you wonder. He's been studying criminology for centuries. Oh my God. That was an open mouth insert foot segment.
No, I totally agree with Robert, but
Nancy Grace.
It's Nancy Grace. Thank you, Robert. It's Nancy Grace.
He literally said that boneheaded thing on Nancy Grace. I bet you I know what Nancy Grace was thinking. Oh boy.
Got your soundbite.
Oh boy. Is this guy on drugs? He just said that. Oh my. Oh my. No, maybe I shouldn't have had him on. Maybe he's drunk. Oh my. That's probably what she was thinking when he said that. Like, seriously, dude. But, like always, guys, like, subscribe, and comment on my channel. Hit that bell notification for any new uploads. Yes, I'm getting hoarse. My daughter brought home bronchitis. Yay, me. That's why I'm getting hoarse, and been coughing for, off and on for 3 days. But, I love you guys. I love my community. I love my subscribers. And hey, check out my merch store. I got some cool looking new merch that I designed myself. If you guys are into like evil clowns and stuff like that, I've got an evil clown tumbler. I've got an evil clown travel mug. Check out my merch store. You'll love some of the new stuff I got in there. Well, you guys have a good Thursday. This is Robert with True Crime Podcast. I'm out. Peace.
I know you guys will like his outro, so we'll play that. He's an artist. Oh, maybe he's not doing an outro.
Stay in the house. Lock the door.
Okay, let me stop it before the next video. Good grief. Okay. I have some starred comments here that I want to get to. You guys just keep coming with good ones. Yeah. Thank you. And I mean, I'm not saying that I'm just saying in that instance, like, you could see you all watched it. You guys all watched how she put this emotional baggage on her guest, talked more than he did about her experiences, got into the emotional brink, and then started bringing in experts to talk about the brutal crime involved. I mean, if you're going to have someone misspeak, that's how you do it. Or get to their emotional height where they say something they don't want to say, But let's get to some of these starred comments. All right, here we go. There are only two ways. I'm sorry. There is only two ways. There is only one latent footprint. They went out the window or there was a cleanup. I am not dismissing the window theory. I'm not dismissing anything, not when our exits and entrances. Although the PCA does state that after the perpetrator walked by the door and DM shut the door, it led her to assume he went out the sliding glass door. I will say, if they knew he went out the sliding glass door, like if there were they would have probably stated that. Like if they had forensics showing, which they would have stated that in the PCA. So my tendency is to believe they don't know through forensics where he left the house. They know through maybe a combination of BF and DM or just DM's statement. And then possibly in their minds, frat guys fighting Ethan maybe never thought it was murder. I think probably most of us wouldn't have think that was going on in our house. KG may have been stalked by her sorority, but by several men, I think he was, as well as assigned a private driver when they want you to shut up. Watch Bubbly Waters. Okay, I'm glad you brought up Bubbly because I didn't even think to have this on my radar. I've heard Bubs needs our support. I don't want to go into detail because I'm not sure if I have all the details, but what I will say is if you enjoy Bubbly's videos, please make a comment, mention her, go leave a like, give her some support because I've just heard she needs some support over there. But I will bring up Bubbly's video. And aside from that, look, how could we have, I think it was one of Heather's videos recently who was bringing this up. I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, just think about all the different things we heard. We heard about the Uber at first. Then we heard about the private driver. Then we heard about the arranged driver. And like in all of these instances, it is odd because you throw in the element that the person that drove them home was allegedly a family friend. And then the other oddity of it is he didn't know it was them until a few days later, and then he contacted the family. Like, how would he have not known that until a few days later? Like, people in South Africa knew. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. The autopsy reports will be very telling, assuming they're legitimate. And when I do my podcast later tonight with Warning Label Nina, we are definitely going into the criminal justice system within Idaho, including talking about incarceration, and more importantly, talking about statistics. And we are getting into a couple stories related to autopsies in the state of Idaho. So it's going to be a really informative, interesting, maybe even like provocative show tonight. So I highly recommend you tune in. I don't think the door being open changes the time of death, but it definitely changes the roommates' claims how they found them. I don't know if it changes it either, but I mean, if you're calculating the temperature and the chief investigator doesn't know that the temperature would have been a lot lower in the house than under normal circumstances, I, in my head, think that changes the rate of the body cooling. I don't know. You guys tell me. The Laramie family was asking for a reasonable amount, in my opinion. I'm glad Annie says that. At least somebody else kind of agrees with me. I felt uncomfortable saying that to you guys. I'm not trying to butt against, everybody's opinions. I'd rather everyone, not say anything if it's going to cause issue. Between her and Ashley Banfield, the media is just a train wreck. I think there were times where I felt Banfield was out of control in this case, but I don't mind her reporting so much anymore. But maybe she just doesn't report on the case that much, and that's why. But yeah, I've lost a lot of respect after that interview for Nancy Grace. I'm not saying I won't get it back. I'm just saying that bothered me. It still does. Vapor diamonds. All right, so I promised you there's one last clip. I didn't even think I was going to go an hour. I thought this was going to be like a 30-minute segment because Robert's video was only 27 minutes. But I mentioned to you guys that I had a clip of the 8:30 a.m. door being left open. I mean, I just have so much archived footage, you guys. I like an opportunity to show it to you and put it out there. So I am going to bring that up. Hold on. Go to my channel. All right, let me share my screen with you. Oops. Remember when Steve G told us that this is our grand finale? Just bear with me, you guys. This is worth the wait if you don't know this information already. Were we originally told that the 911 call was at 11 or 11:56? Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Swamp Rose, and this video features adult content. It is for research, criticism, analysis, reaction, and commentary. Please do your own research and form your own opinions. I would love to know what you think, so please comment below. So if you don't know what to comment below, just go ahead and comment your favorite true crime hashtag and start a conversation. We're a great community and we'd love to hear what you have to say. So with that, let's begin. So this tip was given to me by Mikey S. It's another one of those WTF moments that we keep stumbling into in this case. So this originally aired on November 22nd, 2022. Time goes on. The 911 call is still not released.
That's true.
And that just causes a lot of questions. So we're just going to now add this to what is probably a dozen different anomalies before the 911 call that we've reported on this channel. But as time goes by and the 911 call, it has not been released, it just keeps going into contradicting facts. So maybe we'll understand all of this when the trial comes. So there's probably an explanation of the way things are presenting themselves. Early on, from day one, people were saying that the 911 call was at 11. On day 3, Fry held a press conference stating that the 911 call came in at noon. And again, no 911 call released to clear this up. But we were also told that a surviving roommate was rushed to the hospital. So somebody finally found reporting of this 11 a.m., which seems to have been kind of scrubbed from the internet. So before I say any more, I'm just going to play you this soundbite.
Sorry, I thought this was going to be like a little bit better flow.
In Idaho, as authorities try to figure out who murdered 4 college students as they slept in their beds. I'm Anjanette Levy, and welcome to Law and Crime Sidebar Podcast. We are taking a closer look at that tragic murder investigation that is underway in Idaho. This is where 4 college students were stabbed in their beds a little bit more than a week ago. Ethan Chapin, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Carnodal, and Madison Mogan were found stabbed to death just before 11 a.m. on Sunday, November 13th. All 4 students had been out for the night before, but police said that they've been working on the timeline, and they've been able to determine that all of those students, the 4, were home by 1:45 in the morning. So they've really established a timeline here, and then that 911 call was placed at 11 a.m., so just about 9 hours later. So it's a real mystery. In the morning. So they've really established a timeline here, and then that 911 call was placed at 11 a.m., so just about 9 hours later. So it's a real mystery, and it's pretty disturbing what happened.
Oh, I'm muted. Oh my God. I didn't realize I was muted. I'm sorry. Yeah, so all I was just saying is if we're talking about time of death, and that report could be totally false, I don't know. But if it's true, if 11 a.m. was when people were called over, I'm just saying when we're talking about the door being opened and the temperature changing in the house, I do feel that plays a role in time of death, but I don't know, because are they determining time of death? It's based on the forensic downloads, I believe, but it would explain why we had these crazy timelines that were so different. Some people think it was to throw the perpetrator off because only the perpetrator would have known the correct timelines. But could it be that maybe the temperature in the house was off and they had the wrong time of death? So we're going to get into this clip by Chaos Sector suggesting the door open at 10 a.m. And then we're going to get into this reporter who, with the most credibility of anyone I've just played, stating she talked to a neighbor who said the door was open at 8:30 a.m. So let's keep going. Oh, snap.
happened to these college students.
So what this video says is true, that some of the contradictions we've been reporting on could just be that the wrong time got relayed to us. The police are under no obligation to tell us the truth when there's an open investigation and they're looking for a perpetrator. There could have been a reason why they told us no. We don't know. And again, if you weren't following this case from day one, it's not something you probably would have picked up on by day 3. Just like the surviving roommate being rushed to the hospital. And by the way, I heard about that story from A.R. Hayes and Unfiltered Lucky. Speaking of which, let me go ahead and show you that soundbite. Before I am, just to back up this report, you're going to hear Kaylee's friend, Katie. And then after that, we're going to hear 2 more sound bites from mainstream media. We're going to hear another soundbite, which Tell It to Elle captured. So I thought Mikey's reporting was excellent, and I actually have a few sound bites from mainstream media that can back him up. And I will make sure to link below the creators that provided these sound bites so you can go check out their channels too.
Not panic, And I remember texting Kaylee. To see if she was okay. She obviously didn't ever respond. It was in the morning.
And doing everything they can, including talking to neighbors. I talked to some neighbors who live nearby here too, John, a few hours ago. They told me something that was pretty interesting. We've been talking about that backsliding door so much, but the front door, I'm told by a neighbor who walked by that morning who was coming back to his apartment, was wide open around 8:39 a.m. He told me that he gave that information to investigators, but we hadn't heard too much about that front door. And around 8:39 a.m. would have been a pretty good amount of time before police ever got the call that those students were dead inside. John.
Do you guys recognize her? You can see her on like all of the major political campaigns. I just saw her covering a Trump rally, and I saw her covering a rally with Kamala Harris. So she's a major field reporter for Fox News, one of the largest news stations in the country. And I'm just going to play it one more time because this is our grand finale. Let's just remember what she says. She found this out on her own. And then they asked MPD about it at a press conference.
And doing everything they can, including talking to neighbors. I talked to some neighbors who live nearby here too, John, a few hours ago. They told me something that was pretty interesting. We've been talking about that backsliding door so much, but the front door, I'm told by a neighbor who walked by that morning who was coming back to his apartment, was wide open around 8:39 a.m. He told me that he gave that information to investigators, but we hadn't heard too much about that front door. And around 8:39 a.m. would have been a pretty good amount of time before police ever got the call that those students were dead inside. John.
And this was the press release from Chief Fry after he found out about the door. And then this is the news report, which I heard about from Unfiltered Lucky.
On Good Morning Northwest, tragedy on the U of I campus. 4 students dead, another in the hospital. The new information we're learning and the questions we're hoping to be answered. On Good Morning Northwest, tragedy on the U of I campus.
4 students dead, another in the hospital.
The new information we're learning
It's not because that's the footage they have, right? I agree. I know what you're referencing. Okay, so I wanted to pause here on this. I wanted to pause here on these 2 screenshots. So this woman is a reporter for WXLY, and these are her text messages.
I want you guys to
see this though, where she says, "Damn, you're right. We did not include that in our story." And then the second text message says, "It's just awful." And then the third one says, "Another student in the hospital. It's one of the many pieces that the police aren't talking about." So I would love to know what you think. What do you make of this? Do you think that this is just an oversight in reporting? Do you think the police put the gag order down and they owe us no explanations and we'll figure all this out at trial? Let me know in the comments. And thank you for watching, and I hope peace is your journey today. Okay, let me pause that for a new video starts. Probably would have picked up on. Okay. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed my reaction video today. I really appreciate you showing up and watching. I really appreciate my mods keeping the chat clean, and thank you for showing up. And I just have to say, the live chat honestly makes the show, whereas I have a 30-minute story to bring you. Your thoughts and insight turn it into an hour-and-a-half program. So I just want to say thank you for your viewership, and it means the world to me. I hope you have a happy Halloween and a safe one. And yeah, get out there, have some fun. I hope your kids have fun. I hope your inner child has fun. So God bless, and I'll talk to you guys soon. And if you're a member of my channel, I'm actually ending this live stream and I'm starting a members only live stream. So please come join me if you'd like to hear story time with Swamp Rose. Anyway, thank you. Have a great day. Happy Halloween.